whim. It is an energy system based on an energetic template. It has an energy field that stores information, is linked to a larger universal energy field that steps the energy down through multiple dimensions that culminate but are not restricted to the physical body. It is this field that is accessed in hypnosis or through skilled intuitive readings to access memories from the current lifetime and other lifetimes. There's a lot of research that shows that CIA operatives form this foundation and sit on the board of it, an agency with a lot to hide and avoid scrutiny that memories retrieved from hypnosis could raise. Blocking memory in the material physiology, this matter stuff that makes up our body, blocking memory in this and in the physical brain tissue is only a physical part of the energy network of information that constitutes memory. Memory has an energetic and vibrational component that are multidimensional and that exist in the human energy field or aura and not only in the body's physiology. So I think we need to rethink this whole false memory syndrome foundation. And as Fred said, if false memories can be implanted, they're still going to be shown through energy medicine eventually. I'm sure that I'm going to be vindicated on this, that they were false and implanted because the information doesn't exist elsewhere in the energy system of the human body. Overcoming overwhelm. When you get into all this, it looks really dark and really ugly. My own experiences and the feelings that went with them were direct evidence of the reality of this dark part of our world. I had more than one existential crisis dealing with this information. My choice was to stay afraid and angry and shut down and quiet, or to heal, to step up to the plate and really choose to heal, and I chose the healing. The only way out for my healing was to kind of go back to my spiritual roots of childhood, and this conscious connection that I had to a conscious loving universe, a source creator. This is another thing that I think is really important to read. This is from Paul Levy. He has a website called Awaken in the Dream. Trauma is a normal, healthy response to an insane and intolerable situation. There is an intimate correlation between being traumatized, abused, and wounded, and having a shamanic initiation, spiritual awakening. Trauma is an experience that is overwhelming to the ego in that it can't be assimilated by the ego in the typical way. Trauma initiates and catalyzes the deeper process of the archetype of the shaman to begin to formulate and crystallize itself in the unconscious of the future shaman. This precipitates a deeper part of the psyche to become mobilized as the shaman journeys deep inside themselves to address and become acquainted with what has gotten activated within them. So this is a process of spirit or soul retrieval. It has to take place because literally in trauma-based mind control techniques, parts of you are splintered and fractured away, and you have to gather all that back together and reintegrate it into a larger whole, and the pieces have to have more space in them to include the parts of the world that you now know exist. And if people ask me, they don't want to face up to the fact they don't want to look at it, but the important thing is to realize is the trauma that occurred, it happened to me because I was in a very special reality that was conditioned in a certain way. Okay, I thought that I lived in a society with laws and due process, and that if somebody did something bad to me, that I could go and have them prosecuted or have protection of the law in some way. And then I went out to this total other area where none of the usual rules applied, and it overwhelmed my consciousness. It overwhelmed my ego. And for people that don't understand that those kinds of things can go on, they are also at risk of that kind of trauma until they look at it and accept that it does go on. So you move from the place where not knowing this kind of thing and then experiencing it or hearing about it can be a trauma. And if you know that it can happen, you downgrade that to, well, that's really disturbing, but maybe it won't shatter your ego to hear about it or even experience it. And God forbid any of you experience what I went through. So, outer resources were body-centered and somatic experiencing therapy that allowed to feel the feelings to completion, or allowed the trauma to completely discharge from my body. And I had somebody who was wonderful to stay with me and coach me to stay with what I was feeling so that it would have a chance to discharge. Again, I want to really have gratitude for Fred Burks and the team that created the Transformation Team course and the wanttoknow.info website. It's a wonderful, wonderful group of people. I had the loving support of some loyal friends by this time. And my inner resources, of course, were my lifelong spirituality and my connection to nature. The expanded viewpoint, shedding the victim mentality. So I had this concept of 100% responsibility, which I took further from my coaching training. Looked at why did I come here to planet Earth, and discovered the idea of a soul contract, that maybe I signed up for this in the beginning. And as rough as these experiences have been, they shook me awake in a way that I wouldn't trade for anything today. So it's a big statement to make, but if all the experiences I've had have made me who I am today, then I have to be grateful for every part of it. It was a bitch to get through and heal from, but here I am today. So, and then you step into seeing the cosmic viewpoint, because I think that anything that puts pressure on us to change, to grow, to evolve, to expand, I call it evolutionary pressure. And the human race is under a lot of evolutionary pressure right now. The most important part of my message today is about moving beyond fear. I had to set aside so much fear to even be up here speaking to you today. This is my third public speaking engagement talking about these experiences. And what I had to go through to even be able to do this was I took every single thing I was afraid of and I would visualize it, and I'd walk myself through in a visualization and see myself moving through the experience successfully. Whatever it was I was afraid would happen to me, I would visualize it and see myself successfully moving through to the other side, even if it was my own death. Now, I don't want to die any more than anybody else. But if I did die, I know that I continue. The body, I drop the body, and I continue. So even if the worst came to the worst, it's still not the end of me. The other thing I found is there is an essential flow of energy in the universe, like the inflow and the outflow of our breathing. And that energy flow flows through our body. It actually creates our body through the chakra system. And so when that flow goes through the body, you know, it kind of has its ebb and flow, and it's kind of this dance of energy. Well, there's a whole system of energy there that wants to flow in harmony. And so what happens is if there's a block, then it bumps up against that. And when it bumps up against it, it creates friction. And that friction creates situations in ourselves that over time can create disease if they're not addressed, or over time, really create an upset in the mind, the body, or the spirit. And so energy wants to flow unobstructed. If it meets an obstruction, such as a trauma, then it works on it to resolve it. And it brings about, again, people, places, and situations to help you resolve the trauma. So that's to me, my hopeful message, that whatever's wrong in our world, whatever's going on under the cover of secrecy, whatever abuses are going on, there is a universal energy flowing through everything that wants beauty, balance, and harmony. And when it bumps up against those obstructions, it's going to bring about the things that will open those up and get things flowing free again. I think we're seeing that in our society with the current chaos that we're going through economically, environmentally, socially, politically, every other way. I think it's evidence that is occurring right now. Mind-body research. This slide I'm going to go through very quickly. Study the work of Deepak Chopra, Candace Pert, Dawson Church, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden. Study quantum science and its implications for mind-body energy medicine and how we create our reality, because there's some real clues there. And I have to tell you, folks, ETs have a mastery of quantum science. We are in our infancy, and they have a mastery of it. And sometimes I ask, some of the more hardcore empirical researchers, I said, I think we all agree that UFOs are multidimensional, at least some of them are multidimensional or extra-dimensional in what they can do and achieve. And how are we supposed to pin that down and prove it in 3D reality? We need to expand our science. So basically, from kind of a military attitude, if I or anybody else stays stuck in rage, grief, or depression about what happened to me, then I let the bastards win, don't I? No, not going to do that. Not going to do that, not for an instant. So again, I kind of did this visualization, but again, in moving through the fear and getting on the other side of it, my consciousness began to light up like a Christmas tree. Abilities, you know, we kind of name them clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, psychic abilities. I just lump them all into expanded abilities. I have started to come alive in a way that I never would have dreamed of before putting aside the fear. But as I put aside the fear, the wonderful part has been how my consciousness is turning on and awakening and how my senses are expanding. So now I'm beginning to fulfill that potential that I had as that early first wave indigo child. And it's really, really a wonderful thing. It's said that the truth will set you free, but that's really only the beginning. Truth equals freedom, and that equals co-creative responsibility. Individual and collective choice about the kind of actions we'll take to create our world. And that's we will take to create our world. Our freedom does not come from a government agency. It doesn't even come from our Constitution, wonderful a document as that is. Our freedom comes directly from Source Creator. It's not something anybody can give to us. It's not anything somebody can take away from us. It's something that we claim for ourselves because it's our birthright. So don't you ever surrender it for any reason. Once we have truth and freedom, it's in our hands. And we can become truly sentient as a species. And I think that that birthing into full sentience with vision and heart and conscience is one of the things that will create the common energetic ground for contact with extraterrestrials. So the choice is there, you know. Are we going to be mercenaries or vigilantes, you know, eye for eye, tooth for tooth kind of an idea? Or are we going to be honorable warriors of the heart and the spirit? You know, every day we're presented with choices, and we can choose in alignment with being warriors of the heart and of the spirit and with honor. So that's really about it. I know we've talked about some really rough things today, and one of the things that I've discovered that I can do in the last few years is channel some beautiful singing. So I'm going to do that just for a minute here.
Niara Isley, Melinda Leslie.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.